First Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Top of the morning to you, Kevin Wildes. We got Nick Wright. Brandon Marshall is here with us. We got a great show for you today. And yet another reason last night why in the NBA it ain't over until it's officially over when the clock strikes zero. Another great game last night. That's where we start the show this morning. Unbelievable ending to the Raptors Celtics. Game 3. This one looked to be all Celtics, but no. Kyle Lowry with that incredible pass over Taco Fall to OG Anunoby, who somehow was left open, drains the three as time winds down. 100% clutch from him. As Toronto guys, right back in this series, 104-103, about as close as you can get. That's your final. Here is OG Anunoby and Jaylen Brown after the game.
Hey OG, maybe a stupid question. Just watching, like you showed no emotion after you hit the shot. Like how did you stay so cool after such a big play?
Oh, because when I shot, I expected to make it. So like I don't shoot trying to miss. Like every shot I shoot, I try to make it. So I was not surprised because I wasn't surprised.
We were matched up, and OG snuck along the baseline, didn't recognize him early enough, and he got a wide open look. We got to be better than that. We got to communicate better. And, just me being, 4 years in, I got to be better. Can't give up a three at the end of the game. They made a remarkable shot still. But it's a disgrace. It's terrible. No excuse for it at all. You know what I mean? It was ridiculous. So can't take your foot off the gas at all. We got to be ready to play game 4.
Jaylen Brown with that accountability there. Nick, I'll start with you. Was that buzzer beater by OG more of a great play by the Raptors or a breakdown by the Boston Celtics?
Can I choose both? Because it was a spectacular play by the Raptors,
yeah.
But that was an indefensible mistake by the Celtics. And I know it's very early across America right now, but can you hear that? It's the slightest faint sound. That's the heartbeat of what looked like a dead champion slightly, maybe, possibly coming back to life. This was as close as you could possibly have to being done. Half second, down 2, going to be down 3-0 in the series. Good night, good luck. Celtics 7-0 to start the playoffs. The massive favorites to not only win this series, but the favorites in the East. And now, all of a sudden, Game 4 becomes the turn game in the series. And so how does it happen? Well, it happens because Kyle Lowry makes a 99 out of 100 degree of difficulty pass and makes it perfectly. But it also happens because the Celtics defended this play like they were up 1. They defended this play like a 2 beat them instead of a 2 just forcing overtime where they would have been the favorites because they have proven to be the better team in this series. The only thing you can't let happen there, the only thing is an open 3 where a guy can get it off in point. He got that off in 0.3. Didn't even need the full 0.5. So it is a spectacular play by Lowry, a spectacular play by OG Anunoby. 2 guys, by the way, both who played 45 minutes last night. Little note to Mike Budenholzer for tonight with Giannis. But it is a breakdown by the Celtics, Brandon, and it's one... I'm not going to say it flipped the series, but the series was over, and now it's not, Brandon.
I disagree with you. This was an amazing play by the Raptors. It was all about the Raptors. When in defense, you know this. You have less than a half a second in the game. You have one of the freakish all-time centers in the paint. You protect the paint. You got Gasol in the paint. You have to protect the paint. That's the number one responsibility. If the ball's on the front side, backside defender has to protect the block and the paint. That's exactly what they did. Jaylen Brown, phenomenal job getting out there. I'm surprised he even got that close. I know he's being hard on himself. Jenna, you talked about accountability. But Jaylen Brown, there was nothing you could do. They had a great call. You have Lowry take the ball out, throw it over a 7'10", it seems like, Taco. Yeah. Like, there was nothing they could do. So, Wildes, I don't know how you feel about this, But for me, I think it was a great call. It was a great play by Kyle Lowry. The defense had to do exactly what they did, and that was protect the paint.
Yeah, I thought Jalen was a little hard on himself. Like, if you're going to lose on an amazing shot, like, so be it. But I love Jalen's passion. The other thing, Nick, if we're talking about the other series, this shows why you have your court general throw the ball in. So, like, I know we're this little Monday morning quarterback, but, like, that's why
don't have SGA inbound for OKC?
We just saw it. That wasn't the play. Like, people are like, oh, what a brilliant play. Like, that's Lowry making a call, like basically calling an audible, seeing how it plays out, and throwing the ball across court.
And that's the Wilds. That's the difference.
Go ahead.
Wilds, I'll let you finish, but you got Nick Nurse out there and Brad Stevens engaged in a high-level chess match, and Billy Donovan's over here playing Connect Four. I mean, that's the difference. Like, it's not, and so that is where, like, coaching really matters. And so I agree with you 1,000%. Go ahead.
Again, I don't want to derail it, but it got worse when I saw the new quote from Russ that we didn't get into the show yesterday. When Russ like, yeah, I knew that play. It's like, Billy Donovan, you're drawing up plays that Russ knows. Like, what are you doing? So that's your 48-hour-old take on Rockets Thunder if you needed it. Go ahead, Jenna.
Brandon, how deflating was the play for this series now? If you're the Celtics, I mean, we saw Jaylen Brown and how emotional he was afterwards, but are the Raptors really right back in this, or who's in the driver's seat right now in this series after a play that momentous?
Well, you know who I'm going to say. It's the Celtics. I said it in December, and I'm going to continue to remind you guys. This is 9 months out. I picked this team, and they should be proud of themselves. They played hard, but they just didn't get it done. It really had nothing to do with the last couple seconds. The last couple of minutes, I really feel like they stood up as champions and really dominated this basketball game. When you have things like this happen, you just got to tip your hat to them and say, good job. Nick, I still believe in the Celtics. The Raptors showed some amazing things last night. Van Vliet, the first series, he was probably the most efficient player in the entire bubble. But the last 2 games, he's been non-existent. So that's the only chance they have. If Van Vliet can continue to find the bottom of the basket, they may have a chance. But the Celtics is going to win this series.
Well, listen, I think the Celtics are still in control. And while I didn't pick the Celtics anywhere close to back in December, before the playoffs, and before this series, I picked them to make the conference finals, so I'll stick with that. But I do need to remind the audience, these series can flip fast. The Celtics last year won their first 5 games of the postseason, and then all of a sudden lost 4 in a row, and their season is done. Last year, the Milwaukee Bucks are up 2-0 on these Raptors. Game 3 is in double overtime. A chance to put them away. They lose that game, and they don't win another game in that series. They end up losing 4-2. The series Wilds was just talking about. The Rockets are up 2-0. They're in Game 3, up 5 with a minute left. They blow it, and all of a sudden we're in a Game 7, and it's coming down to the final shot. So I still believe the Celtics are the favorites. But now we have a real series. And the idea that when you don't have to play any road games, that you can't come back from 2-0 down, the bubble has already shown us that these series can flip. We've seen a 3-1 series flip. We saw a 2-0 series almost flip if Billy Donovan doesn't call a play that Russ knows and throws it to Steven Adams. Like it is just, if you're the Celtics, you've got to, Brandon, you've got to immediately be able to get out of your head, we had this series won. Because if it bleeds over, Brandon, into Game 4, then that's when you start worrying about them being in real trouble and the Raptors trying to hold on to that defending champion title for another few days.
It's over. It's over. The Raptors, they don't have Kawhi anymore, Nick. Who's that guy that's going to carry them the rest of the way? They don't have that. Kyle Lowry, I mean, hats off to him. He's a phenomenal leader. He's an amazing talent. But at the end of the day, he's not enough. And Van Vliet, he can continue to find the bottom of the basket. But while that still isn't enough, this is a complete team. They're well coached. They play defense. And, they have Kemba Walker. Anytime Kemba Walker gets at least 10 assists, they win every single game. So they have no chance.
All right. We'll wait and see this weekend as they get back out on the court. Hey, there's a new captain, my captain, in New England. And the Patriot bar just got a little bit higher. First things first. All right, we're back here talking New England Patriots. And to the surprise of very few, including Nick, who predicted this months ago, the Patriots have now made it official. Cam Newton named the starting quarterback for Week 1. The heir apparent to Tom Brady also named one of the team captains. So what do you do when you get good news? I'll say it. You head to the gram. Cam did just that, saying, "Dear New England, I will not and do not take this opportunity for granted. I'm so grateful for this organization, my teammates, and this city. Thank you. No need to look back now. Let's go." All right, Brandon, I'll kick it to you. Does Cam Newton being named starter and captain make you feel more confident in the New England Patriots this coming season?
Jenna, we talked about it earlier this week. How about the humility from Cam? Cam is acting like he's surprised, right? Come on, no one's surprised, not even Cam. Everyone knew this. He was going to be the starter. He's going to be the captain. New England has set the standard for winning. They set the standard for how to win as an organization. And here's the cool thing about everything that's happening right now around their team. If your quarterback is not the leader, if he's not voted captain, you're probably not going to win. There's very few winning organizations that have a quarterback that's not their captain. So this is not surprising. I do think that all the headlines coming out of camp since football's been back, it's like, no, it's not New England. Have we ever seen this before? Jenna, like every day there's a new headline coming out. It's Bill Belichick, it's Jed Fish, it's the Squirrel, Julian Edelman talking about Cam Newton or how awesome they're going to be. This is the biggest distraction.
I agree, Brandon. Nick, it's very anti-New England to have had so many headlines pop out of that whole organization this offseason, from Belichick on down. A lot on social media, a lot about Cam Newton. We just heard Bill Belichick heap praise on Cam last week. It seems very anti-Patriots, no?
Well, I mean, the reason there have been headlines is because they've had change. Like, there's usually no change. They're usually a very boring offseason story. They got the same coach, they got the same quarterback, and so I think that the headlines was there was actual intrigue. The only place I'll disagree with Brandon is that everyone knew this. There was a lot of people very connected to this team that report on this team daily that not only were adamant they were never going to sign Cam, but even after signing Cam, they were adamant he might not even make the team. If he does make the team, don't assume he's going to be the starter. And even if he's the starter one day, don't assume it's going to be Week 1, because Hoyer and Stidham have this institutional knowledge that is going to overcome the fact that neither of them are any good. But Wilds, I am so incredibly relieved that this finally came out. And here's why. Because now I can go back to my regular homeostasis of rooting hard against the Patriots. I had been sounding like a Patriot fan because I was supporting Cam, and I still will support Cam. But now that he has been named a starter, now that he has been named the captain, now that it is so clear he always was going to be the guy, that is now put to bed. Now all these headlines of, is he going to do it? Is he going to mess with Belichick? Is he going to be a diva? All that stuff's done. So now I can get back to where I am most comfortable, which is rooting for the consistent demise of the Patriots. I will root for Cam Newton to play well and for them to lose for other reasons. But now that we don't have to worry about folks besmirching Cam Newton's name because he's the starter and the captain, I can get back to where I'm most comfortable, which is rooting against the Pats and, in particular, you.
Yeah, but sure. But in Week 1, when we have our watch party, are you still going to wear the Cam jersey that I got you, or are you going to wear something else?
See, that's the thing. No. There's no Cam jersey. It doesn't exist anymore. It was just
what are you talking about?
There's barely a watch party, Wilds. There's barely a watch party.
It doesn't exist anymore.
It's a watch party. Look, I think this is a little bit more surprising and historic than anyone's giving credit for. Mike Reese did a great job with a report that's saying, look, Cam just got here 2 months ago. Junior Seau, when he arrived, he had to wait a year to be a captain. When Randy Moss arrived, he waited a year. So the fact that Cam showed up 2 months ago and is already ready to assume the captainship, I think is very impressive. I think that is surprising. And going into the season, I think there was 3 things we were worried about Cam. I never said it publicly because I was just like, I had my chest out, waving my Patriots flag. But there were sort of 3 concerns. The first one was health. Every report is that he's 100%. The second one was his mesh with Belichick. He talked about it with Victor Cruz. He's like, am I going to mesh? That seems to be 2 peas in a pod. The third one, the big elephant in the room, was Brady's departure and these kind of like intangible leadership qualities that we didn't know would Cam be able to assume, not because he couldn't, but just because he's so new. It's hard to be the leader of the team when you're like, all right, here's the plan, everybody. And like, by the way, what's the code to the bathroom? I just got here. It's tough to do both. So, Brandon, the question for you is this. How does that actually work in a locker room? Can you take me through like, hey, guys, we're going to vote on captain, like here's the papers, or like everyone put a name in the hat? Like, can you tell me how it actually works? I know every team's different, but what's your experience on how voting for captain works?
No, I'm glad you asked because I hate to say this, but you got it wrong. Guys walk in the locker room. There's a piece of paper sitting in your locker, and it says, today we're voting for 6 captains. And right away, you're really only voting for 5. Because by default, the quarterback is going to get the vote. If he's not voted by his peers, the players, the coaches are going to give it to him. There's been so many times where I've been on a team and the quarterback was given the title because of his position, and we're all looking around like, oh, no, we know this isn't the leader. But for Cam,
oh, that's interesting.
his energy, all the headlines that's coming out of camp, why are we surprised? This is what he's done since day one of walking into the NFL. So, like I said earlier, the standard for a winning team is to lead by example. The quarterback position, the ultimate position, almost that bridge between the locker room and management, that has to be your CEO, that has to be your leader. The New England Patriots set the standard for winning, so I'm not shocked that Cam Newton was voted captain.
Right, and Brandon, I think the point you're making, and it's a good one, is it's less of great news that he's captain, more so it would have been really, really worrisome news if he wasn't. If after what Belichick said about him, after what we've seen, after the fact that he's healthy, if all of a sudden they release the captains and he's not on it, after they went, I think, the last 18 years with their quarterback, Tom Brady, obviously, being one of the captains, that would have raised some concerns. But this also is why what kind of engenders my somewhat irrational bitterness towards the Patriots. Like, they really, it's sinking in. They lost Tom Brady, and they still have far and away the best quarterback in their division. They lost Tom Brady, and they went 0 games without still having what is Cam Newton going to be at worst? The 4th best quarterback in the AFC? Like you have Mahomes, Lamar, Watson,
and it didn't even cost them anything.
It is.
They backed into it. It didn't even cost them much. You're right, Nick.
Exactly right, Jenna. So like that's
disrespecting
the other part of this. Oh, okay. No, listen. I'm not disrespecting Josh Allen. Cam is demonstrably
You're disrespecting Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. How does this team have a phenomenal season, then all of a sudden Tom Brady leaves, and now it's still the Patriots division? Come on, man. That's
serious. I'm totally serious.
Nick,
right now, if the Buffalo Bills could trade Josh Allen for Cam Newton 1-for-1, they would send that card into Goodell in a nanosecond. Like the Patriots, again, have not only the best quarterback in the division, they might have, given the fact that we don't know what Darnold is and Tua's a rookie, they might have the only quarterback in the division that's even one of the top 20 quarterbacks in football this year. Because we evidently disagree. I didn't realize this. We disagree greatly on what Josh Allen is, Brandon. We can talk about it more at a later date. But a healthy, motivated, happy Cam, it's just 20 straight years of the Patriots having the best quarterback in the AFC East. Congrats, Kevin Wildes. It's disgusting. Jenna, it's just gross.
Jenna, Jenna, we never saw it.
Go ahead.
We've always tried to get this emotion out of Nick. We're like, Nick, are you nervous? LeBron's down this, right? He's like, I'm not nervous. He's always so confident. It's almost like he just realized the Patriots are the Patriots. And we just saw it on live television. It was wonderful. It's like, oh my God, the Patriots have Cam Newton.
I don't know if
like,
they're the
it all
Patriots,
started, it was
but
like
they do have
it was like
Cam
the end
Newton.
of Usual Suspects.
Can I just
the
say-
mug breaks. He's like, oh no, the Patriots, it's Cam Newton. Oh, Kaiser Sose doesn't
It's not
exist.
great.
But the scary thing is, Wilds, Nick is one of the few people, we have to admit this, in the media who has been harping on this for months. He knew that Cam was going to go there. He knew that Cam was going to be healthy. Knew that Cam was going to
And now
mesh
it's
with
happened.
Belichick. And he knew that Cam was going to be a starter. And now
And
the
now it's
Patriots are
happened,
back
and
to
I
being
hate
the
all of it.
Patriots.
Cam Newton in
And now
Arrowhead,
he's
week
depressed
4.
And
again.
now I hate all of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't
All
like it.
right, we're going to take a break. Coming up, are the Raptors going to come roaring back after OG's buzzer beater 3 last night? This is First Things First. Go Pats, go! Time now for Four Things First. Couple of things we love from yesterday in sports. Brandon, you loved Kemba's dime.
Oh my goodness, I loved it. I thought this was the game winner. I woke up everyone in the house when he made this play. But it was wiped away. We would never even remember it because this guy, OG, who's known for his defense, bangs a 3 in the corner. Like, this was a significant moment in the game, significant moment that could have been on Kemba's highlight reel for the rest of his life, and now we'll never talk about it again after this day. Terrible.
Well, that's why, because of this, Nick, OG, to the rescue for the Raptors, same game.
Yeah, maybe a more significant moment for NBA history than this made 3 is, I think, the official death of guarding the inbounder if there's less than a second left. If a 7'5" guy can't distract the inbounder in this situation, then you're just wasting a defender. I don't think you have a defensive breakdown if it's 5 versus 4 if you're not using Taco Fall as a giant obelisk in front of Kyle Lowry. So I don't think we're going to see guys guard the inbounder in this situation ever again, Jenna. At least they shouldn't.
Wow, that's a great
All right,
take.
moving on. Kevin, runs
Thanks.
in the family. Tell us what you got.
Hey, Frank Gore Jr. made his debut yesterday, and it reminds me of Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. hitting back-to-back home runs for the Mariners. Now we got Frank Gore Sr. and Frank Gore Jr. playing football. So it's a great moment for all fathers and sons out there. It's just, in general, awesome. Congratulations to the Gore family.
Nice.
All right,
That's awesome.
good stuff. Finally, I love this cute little doink pass from Jordan Love that went viral yesterday. Why did it go viral? Exactly. Why did a backup quarterback who made a pass like that go viral? That's my point. This poor guy, Jordan Love, all he wanted to do was be drafted, get to the NFL, play football. Instead, he gets wedged between the great Green Bay Packers and the great Aaron Rodgers. I say you do you, Jordan Love. You ricochet your balls off anything you want, and you leave all that drama to the Packers organization. Stick with being a backup quarterback. All right, let's move on. Talk some basketball now. On to Brooklyn bound. The Nets announced the hiring of Hall of Fame point guard Steve Nash as their new head coach yesterday. The 46-year-old comes in with no coaching experience, but built a great relationship with Kevin Durant when he was a consultant with the Warriors. Nets guard Spencer Dinwiddie took to Twitter after the announcement saying, y'all wanted a third star. So, Nick, let's start by talking about fit. How does Steve Nash fit with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving? Because that's going to be the big question when it comes to the success of this Brooklyn team.
I have no idea whatsoever, and neither does anybody, because he's never coached a game in his life. Now, is this the right hire? Maybe. Like, we have seen this work before. Steve Kerr, while he was an executive for 6 years and a broadcaster, and then stepped into a head coaching gig, and they won the title. And Steve Kerr, by the way, had the courage of his convictions right when he got there. David Lee, highest paid player on the team, you're to the bench. And Draymond Green, you're taking the job. And by the way, Draymond, you and I might have a prickly relationship, but I can deal with it. Ty Lue, when he took over after being an assistant in the interim role for David Blatt, not only did they win a title, Game 7, halftime, NBA Finals. Ty Lue looked LeBron James in his eyes and said, got to do more. We need more from you, man. And those are from Kerr benching Lee to Ty Lue standing up to LeBron at halftime of Game 7 of the Finals. That's the question for Steve Nash. Is he going to be able to do the tough part of coaching? We know he is one of the most brilliant offensive minds the league's ever seen. He's now with another brilliant offensive mind in Kevin Durant and another really good offensive mind in Kyrie Irving. So it should work as far as scoring a ton of points, being a ton of fun. But this team, Brandon, goes into next season as the favorites in the Eastern Conference. It is win right now. And we're seeing in the playoffs, you're going to deal with Nick Nurse on the other sideline. You're going to deal with Brad Stevens on the other sideline. You're going to deal with some great other coaches. And it is, I'm not saying the Nets made the wrong move. I'm not saying they made the right move. They were always going to hire who Kevin Durant told them to hire. Kevin Durant told them to hire Steve Nash, so they hired Steve Nash. But it is a hell of a risky gamble to put a team that is win right now in the hands of a guy who's never coached any game, assistant or head coaching in the NBA, Brandon.
Perfect coach for this team. It's easier for a player to make the transition to coach in the NBA than it is for the NFL. There's much less to manage. So I think that he'll do a phenomenal job. He's always been that player coach. He's been that guy on the court that's been that general. So I'm not concerned about that. I think the most important thing here is KD and Kyrie. They wanted him. KD wanted this guy, right? So when you look at this dynamic, that's the most important thing because Steve, they know how to win championships. They've done that. Now what they need is a guy that they can trust. And that's the most important thing in the locker room. When you look at the most important attribute that a player needs when he looks at his coach is, can I trust you? Do I respect you? And there's no one that's more respected in the NBA than Nash. So, Wiles, I don't know how you feel about this, but I know your feelings could be possibly hurt because you wanted Pop in this position.
Yeah, no, I always thought the Pop was an interesting, creative writing exercise for some journalists, but I never thought it actually had a chance. But it was interesting. Look, for a team that's championship or bust, I think it's extra fascinating. And Steve Nash's resume is great, but it does have one hole in it, Nick. Look, 2-time MVP, 8-time All-Star, 5-time assist leader, the architect of sort of modern basketball with D'Antoni and those Suns. Well-liked and respected around the league.
No finals appearances.
Never won. Not even an appearance. That's right. So when we look at Steve Kerr, Steve Kerr came in with 5 rings. Ty Lue had 2 rings that he could be like, listen, I've been here, guys. Yeah. So I don't know if it rears its head ever, but it is worth noting that Durant and Kyrie are champions and their coach is not. And granted, maybe Kyrie's like, hey, I want to be the MVP or I want to be assist leader. But when it comes to that championship pedigree, Durant and Kyrie have to lead rather than their coach.
Well, I agree 1,000% with that. And listen, I want to reiterate the point I made a moment ago. Kevin Durant chose this. I don't know if that's good or bad, but the Nets have given the organization over to Durant. And by the way, when you have a chance to get one of the 3 best players in the league, that is what you do. But they signed Kyrie because Durant wanted them to. I would argue they got rid of Kenny Atkinson when they did because Durant and Kyrie wanted them to. They signed DeAndre Jordan, and they insist he starts over, I think, a superior player, Jared Allen, because these guys wanted him to. And so my only concern, Brandon, would be, and tell me if you disagree, I would think part of being a great head coach in any sport is the ability to deal with conflict, lean into conflict, and have tough conversations. And when you have the job because this guy picked you, I do wonder if there's a bit of how much can I tell KD if it seems, and it's not that he often doesn't play well, but for whatever reason isn't doing what we need to do to get it together when KD is the one who brought him there, Brandon.
Oh, he's going to have a bigger opportunity to hold these guys accountable. When you respect someone, and that guy can hold you accountable. Okay. So it's that notion of not being able to rock the boat or really call this guy out in front of everyone else, it's wrong because that creates a more vulnerable situation where guys sit down and they have real conversations. But Wiles, you mentioned something that was interesting. You talked about he hasn't won anything. Well, how the hell is he going to win anything when he's going against Kobe and Shaquille every single year? He's going against Duncan and Ginobili and Pop. Like, that takes nothing. We can't take anything away from this guy. This guy is a champion. He's a winner. He's well respected, and he's going to do a phenomenal job in New York.
Yeah, that's fair. That might be like the ring counting might be more of a media narrative than it is on the court. So I think that might be a fair point. I just thought it's interesting that, you know, some players with championship pedigree seem to have an easier time becoming coaches than players without.
All right, there's one other angle to this that I think has to be addressed. And let me back up first. One of the reasons I love math the way I do is because it's totally unemotional. There's no biases involved. It translates across languages, and everyone can understand it. And so I'm going to try to use math to talk about a really sensitive subject. Because the moment this hire happened, our friend Stephen A. Smith went on television and said, this is an example of white privilege. A white player retiring, walking right into not only a head coaching job, but this level of head coaching job. And he, of course, immediately got a ton of very loud pushback. And one of the people who said something that I thought what they said was interesting was Danny Cannell, another friend of ours. Danny said, it's not white privilege, it's former player privilege, meaning that it's guys who used to play have the easy way in. So let's look at, for a moment, the former players who are coaches in this league. There's 9 of them. Does that to you look like what the NBA looks like? The NBA is about 80% black, around 20% white. That's 7 white former players, 2 black former players. So here's why I bring up math, because I know people get all hot under the collar whenever anyone talks about race. We actually can break this down mathematically. What are the odds in a league that has about 20% white players that 7 out of 9 of the former player turned coaches would be white? Well, I'm sure like you guys, or I'm sure like me, you guys all know how to do a binomial probability. So you take a 20% chance of something, you take 9 trials, and you say, what are the odds this would happen 7 times or more if it's just pure randomness? And you type that into your calculator, and the answer is 0.03%. The odds of, in a league that's 20% white, having 7 out of the 9 former players turned coaches randomly be white guys is about 3 in 10,000. So I say all that to say this. This is not calling the Nets racist. This is not saying that Steve Nash is the wrong hire. But clearly, Brandon, there is an issue when it comes to who ownership and front offices see as can be the leader of my team, the face of my team, even when we were choosing from the pool of guys who played. And so that is not accusing anyone of any intentional outright racism. That's just looking at the numbers and saying there is something at play here that isn't just, the idea of meritocracy that the best man got the job every time.
Yeah, it's perplexing. It's perplexing because externally, the league is doing a phenomenal job of leading the way around equality and social justice. They've always been ahead of this. In the NFL, this is the discussion every single year. How many black coaches are there? The Rooney Rule. Are people abiding by it? So that's a discussion all the time. There seems to be a shift in the last 6 years or so because there was the players and the black person was well represented in positions of power. So it's interesting seeing this shift in this dynamic, but I'm confident that the players and Adam Silver will get this right. They have to. They're leaders in this space. You can't externally do a phenomenal job and internally be failing.
All right, well, again, Nick, you said it. You said it. Kevin Durant endorsed the hire. Important to keep in mind. All right, we'll take a break, talk some Kawhi Leonard and his easy night last night. Can I call it that? First things first. Welcome back. We're talking Nuggets-Clippers game 1 last night. We wondered if this Denver team would be worn out after their exhausting first-round series. Apparently, we wondered correctly. Can you do that? Can you wonder correctly? Kawhi able to put up a game-high 29, while the Denver starters combined for only 57 points in this one. Clippers get the easy win. They now take a 1-0 series lead. We welcome in Chris Broussard. Broussard, I'll start with you. Were the Nuggets gassed from Tuesday's Game 7? Or are your Clippers just that good, buddy?
His Clippers, lifelong fan.
Even Nick's been calling them my Clippers the entire restart. Now they're not my Clippers.
It's true.
Gas?
Yeah.
Gas? I wish I could do the Jim Moore voice. Gas? Gas from what? They played 15 games now in the bubble after a 4-month layoff. Can we stop it with the worn out, exhausted? There's no travel.
Ridiculous.
They didn't have to go get on a plane and fly at 2 a.m.
Makes a good point.
They went back to their hotels, all right?
That's ridiculous.
Stop. This is like, in a regular season, this is like being a month and a half into the season, and they're gassed. No, the word is they were outclassed. Nick Wright's worst nightmare is coming to fruition. The LA Clippers are rounding into form, and Nick, they are who I thought they were, okay? A tough first-round matchup against Dallas worked wonders. It got him focused. It allowed Paul George to work himself out of his funk. It allowed Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams to work themselves into shape. And Marcus Morris, he's now a Clipper, okay?
Yeah.
He has activated himself to this team. They love his physicality and his toughness. A wee bit dirty, but hey, everybody crosses the line here and there. He is shooting lights out. 58% from three, Nick, in the playoffs. 56% overall. They're just too good for Denver. Look, they've played Denver now 3 times this season with George and Kawhi. And they've beaten them all 3 times by an average of 22 points. This series, I underestimated the Clippers myself and said it would go 6.
Okay, all right. So the only thing more outrageous that I've heard in the last 24 hours than that soliloquy right there was the God-blessed love letter Reggie Miller and company wrote to Marcus Morris on the broadcast last night. That was repulsive. The ode to Marcus Morris, who, by the way, it's amazing. I watched that whole game. He managed to not accidentally step on anybody's ankle. It's crazy that it was just like a guy who just accidentally steps on ankles all the time. He went the whole game without doing it. Color me shocked by that. But listen, Marcus Morris shooting 58% from 3 is actually not good for your Clippers, Broussard, because there is a precisely, let me calculate it, 0% chance that can continue. So that will come back down to earth. But let's talk about this idea that it's just unfair to say that the Nuggets were gassed. They were clearly emotionally gassed. They had a Game 7 war that came down to the final shot. They had adrenaline pumping for the first quarter. They was tied up, and then they fell apart. It was exactly, you weren't here yesterday, Broussard, but what all of us on this panel said was going to happen. Despite that, I still believe the Nuggets can and will win the series, and I might go as far as to say, for Game 2, they have the Clippers exactly where they want them. Because you know when the Clippers aren't good? When they're feeling good. So right now, America, Saturday night, I think you can get the Nuggets plus 9.5 on Fox Bet, but you don't need those points. Bet them to win on Fox Bet. Because a nice, relaxed, we've played really well 2 games in a row. Or 3 games in a row for the Clippers. We're clearly the favorites. Those are the types of games they lose. And one last thing, Brandon, before I kick it to you. America, always fact check Broussard's numbers he throws out there, because while they're accurate, they are at times misleading. He's accurate in saying the Clippers are 3-0 against the Nuggets when George and Kawhi have played. He leaves out the game the Nuggets beat them when Paul George didn't play. But one of those games was a game in the bubble when the Nuggets had a lead after 3 quarters against the full-strength Clippers, and then it was the Bowl show and Miles Plumlee for the 4th quarter, and then the Clippers ended up blowing them out. So it's accurate. So, believe but check, because sometimes Broussard tries to massage the info a little bit. But, hey, he had Clippers in 6. I've got Nuggets in 7. It'll be very fun to see the next game. But the Nuggets are winning Game 2, Brandon.
Well, Chris, you did a great job of debunking the theory that the Nuggets weren't gassed. They were gassed, man. They were. You can see it. Jamal Murray had no legs. Jokic did a great job in the first quarter. Then the second quarter, where did he go? Where did he go? No, the Clippers aren't really good. Kawhi is really good. Have we ever seen a more consistent guy? If I'm Doc Rivers, man, this has to be like the easiest guy to coach. You just throw him out there and let him do his thing. Night after night after night, he performs. There was two things that I wanted to see, and I didn't see it. I wanted to see Jokic step up to the challenge. He didn't do it. And I wanted to see if Jamal Murray was a flash-in-the-pan bubble guy. And that's exactly what he was. He was gassed. And how do you be gassed? To your point, Chris, how do you be gassed after 15 games? No travel. I don't get it. First of all, Nick is so flustered. He forgot I was here yesterday. What are you talking about? Okay? I was here. All right. Secondly, Jamal Murray.
You weren't here when we did our picks. You're right. My bad. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I was watching from the green room in my house. But anyway, Jamal Murray, he's a nice player. I don't want to take anything away from him. But he has stepped up in class. Let's just keep it real. He stepped up in class. They got Kawhi Leonard to throw on him, Paul George to throw on him, Patrick Beverly to throw on him. And then if he gets to the rim, he's got to face, Montrezl Harrell and Zubac and some side. I mean, it's just a different animal against the Clippers. Look, Denver's a nice little team. They'll get a game. Maybe they'll get two, as I predicted. But this series is over, Nick. Face it. And the Clippers have arrived. And Brandon, they're not good. Paul George isn't good. No. Their role players their roles. No. Paul George still hasn't arrived. Great defense, great on the perimeter, phenomenal job. But on the offensive end, you need way more than that if you want to beat the Lakers. You need way more than that from Paul. He's Pippen. Richard Jefferson should have tweeted about Paul George being Pippen instead of Giannis.
Oh, that's good.
He's Pippen. He's in the perfect role.
Kevin, what did you see last night? Nuggets look gassed?
Well, I saw two interesting things. The first interesting thing is that Chris Broussard is such a consummate professional. Even though we're broadcasting from our homes, he's dedicated a green room into his house. He's got some magazines and some bottled waters there just to prep for the show. So that's a good lesson to all the younger sports journalists out there. If you want to treat this job seriously, dedicate a room to your house, take out all the furniture and turn it into a green room. The sign says Broussard outside. Like, oh, I'm here. Anyways, look, Jamal Murray had 221 points in the last series. We know that he's gassed. I think that Denver has peaked as a team. And Broussard, I'm going to throw it to you here. I don't think Nick actually thinks this series is going 7. And I'm going to question your integrity here, Nick, so buckle up, put a helmet on. I think you want it to go 7. I think you want it to go 7 because you want a tired Clippers team. I don't think you think the Nuggets are. You want a tired team to go up against the Lakers. I do not believe that pick is take integrity.
Go ahead, Broussard, but you're wrong. I want the Clippers to win.
You want the Clippers to win? You do not want the Clippers to win, Nick.
You picked the Nuggets.
Of course.
Pick the Nuggets.
Yes. Broussard, you say you are the king of Broussard, you're the king of, I picked this team, but I'm rooting for this other team. And so I'm picking with my head, not my heart. I told you before the playoffs, I want the hardest possible path. I want there to be no asterisk questions, anything about what LeBron James is going to accomplish en route to his 4th ring. It'll be now, once he has 5 or 6 rings, we might forget all the details of it. But for the time being, when he only has 4, it's going to end up being a great story to be told. But Broussard, I do want to say one thing I think you and I will agree on, okay? Because you have a big issue with my star tiers and my different tiers. So I've broken it down further, and this is actually about Kawhi Leonard. Can we show America the pyramid?
Oh, my God.
55-player pyramid. Now, that's too much. Let's zoom in, if we could, on the upper echelon of it, where we can show the top 21 players in basketball. Broussard, you see where Kawhi Leonard is on that pyramid right now? I'm about a week away from flipping him and Giannis. The way Kawhi has played this whole postseason, and with Giannis struggling the way he is against the Heat, it is becoming very hard to argue no matter how brilliant Giannis is in the regular season, that come the most important time, that Kawhi isn't the player you'd rather have. So while I had it LeBron, Giannis, KD, and then the next tier, Harden, Kawhi, Steph, it's starting to feel to me that Giannis and Kawhi should be flip-flopped there on the tiers. You see your guy Jason Tatum down there. He's 17. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, on Kawhi, where do you stand? I thought Kawhi could have had another 30-point game, but he didn't. But Kawhi didn't play the fourth quarter. He was almost perfect last night.
Nick, you know as well as I do that he belongs on that tier with Durant. I don't mind you having LeBron up on top, but he belongs right next to Kevin Durant. You know it. If you want to leave Giannis up there, fine. But Kawhi, I would rather have Kawhi Leonard than Giannis right now. Brandon said it. Kawhi Leonard he can get a bucket whenever. Doc said it last year. He does remind you of Michael Jordan. I'm not saying he's as good, but his ability in the mid-range, obviously, as a two-way player, I mean, he is killing people in the mid-range game. Youngsters, behold, Kawhi's definitely on that second tier. If that's how you do it.
Well, then we have to remove Giannis because you can only have two people.
Season though, you got to wait all regular season to get that kind of Kawhi though. Talk some football now. It is official. The torch has been passed. This is Cam's team now. Patriots rolling next. First things first. And we are back here talking New England Patriots. Yesterday, the Patriots officially made it official. That's a thing. Cam Newton named the Patriots starting quarterback for Week 1. The heir apparent to Tom Brady also named one of the team captains Thursday. So what do you do when you get good news? You do what I do. You head to the gram. Cam posting this. Dear New England, I will not and do not take this opportunity for granted. I'm so grateful for this organization, my teammates, and this city. Thank you. No need to look back now. Let's go. I love that from Cam Newton. So Cam starting. Our friends over at Fox Bet have set the Patriots over-under for this season now at 9 wins. And with that, we welcome in Brian Westbrook. So, Brian, let's start there. Good morning to you. Does Cam being named starter and team captain make you feel more confident in the New England Patriots this season?
Well, good morning, Jenna. And to answer your question, the answer is no. It doesn't make me feel more confident. It's for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I mean, if there was going to be a fair competition between Cam, Jarrett Stidham, and Brian Hoyer, I would have put my money on Cam anyway, winning that starting job. So I kind of felt that he was going to be the starter anyway. And I think anybody that was thinking normally would have thought he was going to be the starter. And the second part is that 9 times out of 10, and Brandon knows this, the quarterback is going to be named your captain. And when you think about it, think of Cam coming out of Auburn, #1 pick, Heisman winner, national champion. He also is going to be the face of the Panthers franchise. He's going to be the captain there. This is why I think this is going to be a little bit more meaningful to Cam. He's been in New England only for a couple months, but this is what he's had to show these guys in New England, not only the coaches, but his teammates. And this is why he's been voted the captain. He showed them that he's going to transform his body. We've all seen what he's been doing on Instagram over the offseason. The other part is that he showed them he's going to be the first one in the building and the last one to leave. And his work ethic on the field has been second to none, according to Bill Belichick and the other guys on the field. And so, to me, all those things have been going into him and been the input to him being named a captain. And to me, that's meaningful to the most important person, Cam Newton. It may not mean a lot to the older guys on the team, and some of the younger guys are going to look up to Cam anyway because he's a veteran, a guy that's won an MVP. He's been in the league for a long time. But to me, for Cam, only being there a short amount of time, going into a situation with Bill Belichick where everyone was wondering, will he fit with Bill Belichick, and being named the captain, to me, that's probably a big-time achievement for Cam, and I think that's why he's so excited. But as far as that football team and their wins, I'm still very concerned about that defense, and they lost a lot of people, and I'm not sure that they've answered some of those questions and filled some of those holes on the defensive side of the ball quite yet.
Yeah, I agree with you, B. I'm not surprised here, and honestly, who should be surprised here? Everyone knew this. Did we really think Cam Newton was going to step into this organization, step onto the field, and not be the guy? And B, I tried to say this a couple of minutes ago. When we vote for captains, we walk into the locker room or we walk into the team meeting, coach says, hey, we're going to vote on 6 to 8 captains today. We all know there's one guy that gets it by default, and that's the quarterback. We also know that if your quarterback on your team isn't the leader or voted the captain, you're probably not going to win ball games. So I'm not surprised here at all. This is the Cam Newton that we've seen since day one. Day one when he walked into the locker room in Carolina. Cam's going to have a great season. He's going to be well coached. He's going to be prepared. But I am a little taken aback by all the headlines, though, Jenna. This is not the Patriots we've seen for the last 20 years. It seems like every single week out of their camp is someone making a headline, and we have to respond to it or talk. Whether it's Coach Jad Fish, it's even Bill Belichick, the Squirrel, Julian Edelman. So, Jenna, I don't know your take on this, but this is way too much talk coming out of Patriots camp.
I agree. It's very bizarro world, if you would, anti-New England. But, Nick, I got to give you props. You were on this from the very beginning. You called Cam to New England before anyone else did. You called Cam being successful, being healthy, and being the starter. So I would imagine you think this means they are now set up for success with Cam at the helm.
Well, yes. I mean, this is the obvious choice. And to be fair, I think there were a lot of, I think the further away you were from New England, the more confident you were Cam was going to sign there. It was a weird thing. It was like the people closest to the team were the most adamant, not a fit, not going to happen, love Stidham. And then all of us who have never been to a Patriots practice were like, they don't have a quarterback. This guy's available. He's really good when he's healthy. Why would he not sign there? So I never moved off it, but I think there were a handful of folks who said, of course he should be the quarterback. And then once he got there, of course he's going to win a competition over Hoyer and Stidham. Like, this is insanity that it's even a question. But here's the other thing that's happened. And I take Brandon and Brian's point very well that it's more of a sign if your quarterback isn't the team captain than is the team captain. But it's not just about him being captain. Man, they're playing Kirk Franklin music at practice. You got Bill Belichick doing 2-minute sonnets on satellite radio about what a great guy Cam is, how funny he is to be around. Like, Cam is the type of person, and you have heard this at every place he's been to. He's got a Pied Piper characteristic to him. People want to follow him. He walks into a room. He's usually literally the biggest guy in the room, probably the best looking, in most places the richest, in most places he's been the most successful. And so, like, he's charismatic. So, of course, he's going to lead a group of men. The only question was Belichick going to sign off? And Wilds, I know you're overly excited, and I suppose, I guess I'm begrudgingly happy for you. But, like, the properly excited. But the only question was Belichick and Cam going to meld? And it would appear they have already. Like, that's the confirmation here.
Yeah, that's right, buddy. You should put a big smile on your face, just like me as a fellow Patriot fan, Nick. You and me, two peas in a pod, two buddies. I've reached my arm all the way over. I got to go the other all the way over, pat you on the back. Week 1, coming up against the Dolphins. You can come over to old Kevin Wild's house in Westchester with your Cam Newton jersey on, and we can watch it. But there wasn't just one question. There was 3 questions. First one was his health, right? How's his foot? How's his shoulder? How's this? It's all fine. So anybody had a question, it's all fine. Take your questions, ball them up, throw them in the garbage. Question number 2, he talked about Victor Cruz. Is he going to mess with Belichick? Hello, 2 winners who love wearing hats. Yes, they're going to be fine. Question number 3, the intangible leadership of Tom Brady. How are we going to fill that void? How are we going to, or do we still have to drink all this water with electrolytes in it? Well, guess what? We're all good now. Cam Newton is the captain. The question I have for you, Brian, I'm just so happy. I'm sorry. The question I have for you, Brian, is this. What does a captain actually do? And don't get me wrong, I also have experience because I was the captain of my soccer team, but I feel like football is a little bit different than my varsity soccer team. But what does the captain actually do besides, like, the coin flip and, you get a cool different jersey?
Well, Kevin, first of all, we got to find out the results. How good was that soccer team that you were the captain of? Because there are some questions about your leadership ability as far as a captain. So we have to figure that out first. But, they're not great. Okay, well, we can't be captain of this ship anymore. But here's the thing. I think as far as the captains in the NFL, to the veterans, you don't necessarily need a guy to show you what to do and tell you where to go. But for the younger guys, I remember being a rookie, I looked up to those guys, Brian Dawkins and Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor and Brian Mitchell, the older guys. And not all of those guys were captains, but they were veterans, guys that when they talk, that you listen. And when they were talking about how this team should move and where we need to go and the things we need to do, that you're going to listen. That means a lot to the younger guys on the football team. And I think those younger guys that watched Cam growing up in their college and high school days, they're willing to follow him because they've seen him be successful in the NFL. They've seen him be an MVP. They've seen him run the football, do the Superman thing. They want to be like Cam. And I think it's meaningful to them as far as him being named captain. And now he's the guy when times get rough, because you don't necessarily need a captain when you're up by 21 points in the fourth quarter. But when the game is tied, right, and now you need to go on a game-winning drive, you need that captain to step up and say something to motivate you and push you forward. And Cam Newton can do that. And now with that seal on his chest up there in New England, it's going to be important.
All right, Pats have their starter. Will it mean wins? We'll talk about that a little later. Must-watch TV tonight, Rockets-Lakers Game 1. We'll set the table next. First things first. Time now for a little four things first. Couple of things the four of us love from yesterday. Brandon, you loved Kemba's dime.
Ooh, he got game. Man, I woke up everyone in the house after this play. You know, when you get into those clutch moments, you look at what players are going to step up, and I saw Kemba take control, and then he had this pass, and I said, wow, this is going to live on this highlight reel forever. We're going to continue to talk about this defining moment. But then this guy, OG, hit this shot in the corner. This is a guy who's known for his defense. And I'm like, man, if I'm Kemba, I'm like, why? This was an amazing moment.
Forgotten forever.
Taken away
Nick,
by this guy.
you loved OG.
Listen, it's a great shot. It's poor defense. It's a perfect pass. But there's more ripple effects than just keeping the series alive. I think you're going to coaching clinics. And by the way, shout out Hubie Brown, who drew up this play evidently in a coaching clinic years ago. I think they're going to say if with 0.5 left, even if you have a 7'5" guy guarding the inbounds pass, he can't affect the pass, then why would we ever have a guy guard the inbounds pass with less than a second left in a game? I think you'd be better off using another defender to double the paint, and then you're not having to worry about someone coming open. I think the inbounds pass defender's dead forever, Wilds.
Kevin Wilds, go ahead. Runs in the family.
Hey, congratulations to the Gore family. Frank Gore Jr. made his debut yesterday for Southern Miss. So congratulations to Frank Gore Sr. Also, in other fatherhood news, my children ate 2 pieces of toast this morning for breakfast, so it's a big day for all of us, fathers around the country.
All right, no idea, but finally, I love this cute little doink pass from Jordan Love that went viral. Why did it go viral? Exactly. Why did a backup quarterback who just threw a random pass in camp make headlines? That's my point. All Jordan Love ever wanted to do was get drafted, play football in the NFL, and he got wedged between the Green Bay Packers, the great Green Bay Packers, and the great Aaron Rodgers. He didn't want that. All he wanted to do was play football. I say you do you, Jordan Love. You ricochet that ball off anything you want to throw it at, and if it goes in, fantastic, and you leave the drama to the Green Bay Packers. It's my 2 cents. All right, let's move on. Talk a little basketball now. Preview Game 1 between the Rockets and the Lakers. That game set for tonight. Lakers well rested after closing out the Blazers on Saturday. Rockets, I would say exactly the opposite after grinding hard for 7 tough games to beat the Thunder Tuesday night. We welcome back in Cruz Broussard. Broussard doesn't want to hear anything about players being gassed or tired because you've been in the bubble for such a short period of time. But Broussard, what do you think the Rockets have to do to re-engage here and pull off the upset in this series?
Well, Jenna, obviously small ball has to win out over size. They have to impose their will on the Lakers and make it a small game. Now, that's tough to do because nobody in the league is better at controlling tempo than LeBron James. But the Rockets can try to change that by putting pressure on LeBron. We saw he turned it over 5 times a game in the first round. And so if they can pressure him and they're great at scoring off of turnovers, that could really work in their favor and turn the tide toward them. Obviously, James Harden has to be James Harden all 7 games. If they push the Lakers to 6 or 7, he can't get tight, can't disappear, can't struggle. Whatever's happened in many of these closeout games to Harden absolutely cannot happen. and Westbrook has to be in attack mode to keep the Lakers off balance. If Westbrook and Harden can get to the line, which they do as well as any guards in the league, then that is huge. Get the Lakers in foul trouble. And then I'm going to say P.J. Tucker needs to get in Anthony Davis's head if P.J. is going to be on him at any time. Get physical with him, talk to him, try to take him out of his game, because there's never been more pressure on Anthony Davis. Okay, now he's playing with LeBron. It's championship or bust. He's gotten a pass the previous 6-7 years. Now he's got to win a title. And so if I'm PJ, I'm trying to get in his head and put that pressure on him.
So here's one of the issues for the Rockets. Is I was at the Rockets-Lakers game in Houston before the shutdown, and the Lakers ended up pulling away, but they pulled away because P.J. Tucker went out of the game with an injury. P.J. Tucker was guarding in that game LeBron, and he actually was doing a pretty damn good job of it. P.J. Tucker is the number one option to defend two guys, and that's a big problem. He's the guy you'd want guarding Anthony Davis, even though he's undersized, and he's the only guy who has any shot against LeBron. So it's going to kind of be pick your poison. But I believe this is going to be the toughest series of the postseason for the Lakers because the Rockets play such a unique style, and because while the Lakers' three-point shooting has improved over the last 4 games, it's gone from abysmal to actually pretty good when they won the last 4 against Portland, they're not a great three-point shooting team. And it is almost impossible to win NBA games if you've got if you're minus 10 made threes versus your opponent. And I think that's going to happen a number of times in this series. I think there's going to be a number of games where the Rockets make 21 threes and the Lakers scratch out 9 or 10, which is actually a decent night for them, and that's enough for the Rockets to win. The reason why, Brandon, I don't think the Rockets can actually win the series is their only chance of winning the series is a long series. And if you're in a game 7 when Harden and Russ have struggled historically in those spots, and LeBron, by any available metric, is the greatest Game 7 performer in NBA history, you're in really, really rough shape. So I think there's going to be a long series. I think there's going to be a hard series, but I don't think the Rockets can win a Game 7 against LeBron James, so I've got the Lakers in 7. But I don't think this is going to be anything close to what we saw, Brandon, in round 1 from the Lakers over the Blazers.
You got to excuse me here, Nick. I'm smiling because the new resident NFL expert is actually being validated by Chris, the NBA expert on this show. Yesterday, I stood on the table and talked about how the Rockets need to embrace small ball. Like, this is their only way of winning. This is their only shot. And now you open up this take with validating me.
Well,
you actually said that is the way.
No, that's the only way they have to play. I was talking about going forward into the future. If they had lost that series to in the first round of OKC, they would have had to really rethink the small ball. That's what I was talking about. But you're right. They're playing small, and that's what they're gonna have to do against.
No, it's okay to validate. It's okay. It's okay to validate the resident NFL expert. It's okay. It's okay. But this is the only chance they have. James Harden will determine the outcome of this series. James Harden, he has to step up on the offensive side, and that's wild that we're having this conversation because this is a guy that literally dominated the basketball for the last 4 years, and compared to anyone else, no one has been able to do what this guy has been able to do with the ball in his hands. Now, this year, he stepped up on the defensive side. He's actually played really well. He's engaged. He's embracing the moment. But that's not what you want out of James Harden. What we need to see out of James Harden, if they want to be in a Game 7, if they want to possibly advance, James Harden needs to drop 40 to 50 points. If I'm in that locker room, I'm telling him, don't worry about us. We will find our spots. We will find our moments in the game. We need you to go be the beard.
Okay,
ahead,
so here's
Wilds.
what I think. We talk about this a lot on the show when Broussard is the old veteran and Nick is the young new school person. This is very new school versus old school. If you're like new school, you love threes, you hate rebounds, and you've never been in a blockbuster video, you like the Rockets. If you're like old school, if you like points in the paint, you hate isolations, and you ever owned a yellow Sony Walkman, you like the Lakers. And here's why. It comes down to if you love the threes or if you love the two. Rockets score half of their points off threes. The Lakers score only 30%. The Lakers score 52% of their points off twos. The Rockets are like, twos? Why would we shoot twos when we can shoot threes? It doesn't make any sense. They only shoot 38. And I know everyone's like, hey, Wilds, we know the Rockets love three. No, they're crazy in love, Beyonce in love with with the three-pointers. They set records in the last round. Guess what they're going to do now, Broussard? 63s this series. I think they just think they just go crazy, shoot 63s or more to try to freak the Lakers out.
Right. That's
I
right.
think that's right.
Small
That's their
ball.
only
All
method.
right, here's
It's their
my
only path,
takeaway.
Jenna.
All right, we'll take a break. Adrian Peterson was released this morning. What's next for him? Next, first things first. Follow quarterback Tua Tagovailoa as he attempts to overcome that career-threatening injury and rise up as one of the most uniquely skilled players in the history of the game. Tua premieres this Sunday, September 6th at 4 p.m. on Fox. Brandon, I know you said you were looking forward to watching this.
Yeah, I want to see the process he went through mentally, physically to bounce back from this hip surgery. I had 3 hip surgeries, and I remember after my third one, I was so devastated. I took off running, and I ran 5 miles just totally crying because I didn't think I was going to make it back to the season. And the only thing I could do was just run to release stress and pain. So I can feel his pain when he said it's the hardest thing and he was in tears. So that's the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch it too. Nick, I feel like we're talking about, hey, should he start week 1? Should he not start? We were in some scary territory a few years ago when he got hurt. So I feel like, 1 year ago when he got hurt, I feel like we're in a good spot with him now, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the story come to fruition.
Oh, it's unbelievable that people thought, okay, he'll still probably go in the top 10, but whoever drafts him knows he's not going to play at all his rookie season.
That's
it's
right.
going to be a redshirt year, and he might start week 1. I haven't seen this yet, but I hope that the audience that's able to watch it is able to see Tua off the field. I got to hang out, spend a little bit of time with him and his family at the Super Bowl. He is such a shockingly down-to-earth young man, and he has such amazing parents. His dad is one of the most unique people I've ever met, and so I think you'll get a little bit of a window into that as well, which you're not going to see on the football field this year. So I think it's going to be outstanding, and I think America's going to really, really be rooting for him once they get to know him outside of the football player a little bit more after this, Jenna.
Again, it's called Tua, and it airs this weekend. Check it out. Sticking with football, Washington released 35-year-old Adrian Peterson this morning. The NFL's 5th leading rusher all time will become a free agent, and he would like to continue playing, according to reports. Washington thanked Peterson on social media this morning after 2 years with the team. We bring Brian Westbrook back in. Brian, does AP have anything left in the tank after he was released by Washington this morning?
I remember when I ended my career, I knew it was over, and I knew that I had nothing left to give. I probably knew the year before my last year that I had nothing left to give. But we saw Adrian Peterson last year, 800 some odd yards. The year before that, he over 1,000 yards. And I remember back in 2007 when Adrian Peterson came into the league, and Brandon, you can relate to this. He was one of those guys as an offensive player that I would ignore everything the coaches were saying, and I would just go stand on the sideline and watch him run up and down the field. He had a great combination of power and speed and the thought process that I want to carry the ball every single game, 30 times a game. And that's what kind of made Adrian Peterson great. Does he have something left in his tank? Absolutely. I still think he can go to a veteran team, a team that probably is led by a quarterback. I'm thinking a team similar to Green Bay or something like that, and give them, 10 carries a game, 5 to 10 carries a game. He's not going to be your guy that's going to get 15 to 20 carries every single game. But if you need some hard-nosed football and those types of runs, Adrian Peterson can do that for you.
Brian, he's not only the guy that you get off the bench instead of resting, you get off the bench and you go watch him. But after the game, he's the guy you go get the jersey. You say, hey, AD, all day. Brother, give me that jersey. He has so much more left in the tank. It has to be in the right situation, though. Just last year, the last 2 years, he's averaged 4 yards a carry. Me, as a wide receiver, this is the type of guy I want to play with. Why? Because you have to put 8 men in the box. You go back to last year, he didn't come on until probably the second half of the season. They wasn't playing him. You remember what he did last year, 800-something yards, and he missed so many games. I don't know what's happened in Washington. They let go of Juice. They let go all day. I don't know who's going to carry the load for him now. But, AP, go home. We all want to see it. Make amends with the Vikings and go home.
Oh, go back to the Vikings.
I like
this is
two-headed monster.
So I got a lot of emotions here because this is shocking because they did, as Brandon alluded to, they just released Darius Geis for other reasons. And now they're releasing Adrian Peterson, where, to Brandon's point, he's been good for them the last 2 years. I wrote his football obituary on this show after the Saints released him. Since then, he's had nearly 2,000 yards rushing, a dozen touchdowns. He's moved into 5th place on the all-time rushing list and 4th place on the all-time rushing touchdown list. If he never plays again, he's one of the 10 best running backs ever. He and LaDainian Tomlinson are the 2 iconic running backs of their era, with Brian Westbrook right behind him in 3rd place, of course. And so, we know what he's accomplished, but the only thing that would keep him out of the league would be, while he was very effective on a team, by the way, that nobody was scared of them passing. It's not like people were like, oh, you got to worry about Dwayne Haskins. And so those 4.3 yards per carry is an impressive number. The issue, Brian, and I want to kick it back to you, is teams know he's not catching the football. He had 7 catches last year. And he's most comfortable, old school, I formation, fullback in front of him. So because he's not a threat catching the ball, and he's not really, he's not comfortable very often if he's lined up in the shotgun the way a lot of teams do, how much does that winnow the ability or the list of teams who would possibly be interested in him, because you kind of have to run a very specific type of offense with him in the backfield?
Yeah, you do, but he's also a guy that can adapt. He's also a guy that can change. Maybe he can get into the one-back set. We've seen him do so many different things. He knows and he understands every single offense, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to be on 3rd down and long. He's not going to be the guy that's going to be catching the ball out of the backfield. That's just not his skill set. That's not something that he does. So that is going to narrow the amount of teams that he's going to be able to sign with. But there are teams that need a guy that can go get you that 3rd and 1, that can get you that 2nd and short. When you're in the goal line, you need a power back, a guy that can break a long run. There are teams that need guys like Adrian Peterson. So there's no doubt in my mind that there will be some teams that at least take a look at him. And here's what you know you're going to get. You're going to get a veteran that's going to do things the right way. You're going to get a guy that's always in shape. And he's not going to complain whether he touches the ball 5 times or 15 times. He's going to be able to go out there and get it done. And so I think he'll be an asset to any team that's looking for a veteran running back.
Okay, Brian, where would be a good fit for him then? Where would you like to see him end up?
I'm thinking about a run-heavy team, teams that want to run the ball. I would have, obviously Baltimore went and got J.K. Dobbins, and they have Mark Ingram there. But that type of team that wants to run the ball a lot. Think about teams like San Francisco. I mentioned the Packers just because I still think they're looking for, even though Aaron Jones has done a great job, I still think they need that power, hit you in the mouth type of running back or something like that. But there are some options out there. Peterson, he's a vet that can get it. Some of these younger guys need a lot of practice to figure it out. He's a vet that has been there and done that, and so he is a valuable piece to an organization.
But, Brandon, do you bring him in to play, or do you bring him also in to mentor at this point?
No, we need you to come in and play. We don't care about mentoring. Come in and play right now. I love the team that you picked. San Francisco. I love it because they run the keeper game and they run the stretch zone. San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, great fit right here. Seattle Seahawks. You talked about that power running. They love to run the ball on first, second, and third down. I actually think they need to pass more. Jacksonville, there's an opening there. And then Pittsburgh Steelers.
Brandon.
This one is the most intriguing one.
Brandon, what about you? Brandon, you mentioned Jacksonville, which does lead me to think if he was released 72 hours ago, do you think the Bucs would have rather had him or Fournette? Like if they, when the Bucs gave Fournette $2 million, no pun intended, to compete with Ronald Jones and be in that backfield. Now I know he's not a guy you throw the ball to, but Brady in New England, if you remember, they basically had a running back that was just a run in Sony Michel, and then they had a running back who, when he was in, you knew they were passing. So that's something Brady's used to. So if he had been available 3 days ago, do you think Jacksonville would have rather had Fournette, who I think maybe is a bit of a more locker room, let's call it question mark, or Tampa. Peterson, if Tampa, if they would have rather had Fournette or Peterson?
For Fournette, I mean, because it's the upside is larger, right? Like, this is a guy that can come in, and I said it yesterday. And Brian, what I said was, this is a guy that could possibly go for 1,200, 1,500 yards in the right situation. I like him fitting in the Tampa Bay locker room. And then also, if he hits, you can sign this guy to an extension. So I like Fournette for the Bucs in this situation.
Fournette also gives you the opportunity to catch the ball out of the backfield, a younger player. And you know, even though I think Adrian Peterson still has some miles left, I just think he probably wants to go to a situation where they know they can win, and Tampa Bay certainly would be one of those situations. That's why I kind of take out the Jaguars. But with Brandon, when you mentioned Seattle, I mean, I think that's a perfect fit. He's the same type of guy that can go get those hard-nosed yards, a Pete Carroll type of guy. I see that perfect fit out there in Seattle as well.
Well, the only reason I don't like Seattle is because I agree with Brandon entirely. I want Seattle to cut all their running backs. Let Russ cook. Let Russ throw the ball. Like, the last thing Pete Carroll needs is more of a reason to hand the ball off and keep the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands. But I want to bring up one other team. Now, I'm going to say on the front end, I don't think it's a fit. But when Fournette came available, a lot of my Kansas City folks said, hey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire's a rookie. Damian Williams is gone. Like, do you need a short yardage back? Do you think he would fit with Andy Reid in Kansas City, Brian? And would he be okay with, listen, man, you are going to be our short yardage goal line back and nothing much else? The one thing Adrian Peterson's missing from his resume is a Super Bowl ring. Obviously, he would get one if he played with the Chiefs. We all know that. So, like, do you think that would be a fit or an Andy Reid's offense? The fact that he's such a zero catching the football, it kind of nixes him from it.
Well, I knew you had to find a way to get the Chiefs in another Super Bowl and winning that, but I think he would be a fit because Andy Reid's a great schemer. He's a guy that can scheme you open. He could find ways to get Adrian Peterson in space, and especially short yardage and goal line situations. He could find a way to get the ball into Adrian Peterson's hands. He would be a fit because he was going to go in understanding you have a rookie, and you also have Damian Williams, who's going to have an opportunity to play. Adrian Peterson would fit into any situation because he understands. He's a veteran. He's been there and done that. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go play for a contender like Kansas City. We mentioned San Francisco as well. There are teams that can use Adrian Peterson in specific situations to help them win football games because you know he's going to go downhill and run somebody over when he has the ball in his hand.
Well, we won't be wrong because we mentioned almost every team, so we got to nail it at some point. Take a break. Brian, thank you so much for hanging out today. Sticking with football, we're talking Captain Cam, QB1 in New England next. First things first. Welcome back. We're talking Raptors Celtics Game 3 to round out our show this morning. Less than a second to go. Celtics up to Kyle Lowry with that incredible pass over Taco Fall to OG Anunoby, who somehow was left open in the corner and drains the three for the win. Because had he not, that would have been an 0-3 hole for the Raptors. 100% clutch. Toronto wins to get back into the series. 104-103 was your final. Nick, was that buzzer beater more of a good play by the Raptors or a breakdown by the Celtics, or might I add, both?
Oh. It's both. You might, not only might you add it, Jenna, you would be correct in adding it. Listen, Kyle Lowry, that is a perfect pass. There is, dare I say, Patrick Mahomes couldn't have thrown it better. It was a perfect pass, an impossible degree of difficulty, and he dropped it exactly where he needed to. OG, watch his shot here. That's not his regular shooting motion. He understood, I can't do my regular follow through. I got to bring my offhand off the ball a little early. You see him kind of throw it to the side because he knows how little time he has. So perfection by the Raptors and great play design by Nick Nurse against a guy who has made his name in Brad Stevens in being the best sideline out of bounds play caller in basketball. But if you're the Celtics, they defended this like they were up 1. They defended this like a 2-pointer beat them. I'm not saying you give them an easy 2. Obviously, you don't. But the only thing that can't happen is this. And the fact that you ended up double teaming the one guy who wasn't outside of the 3-point line and you left wide open a guy in the corner, that's a massive, massive error, Brandon. And it's the difference between this series being officially, unofficially over and the champs all of a sudden being alive.
I disagree with you, Nick. This comes down to scheme and responsibility. Everyone knows this that plays pickup basketball, that play AAU basketball, play in the NBA. The ball's on the front side, perimeter, the wing, the corner, backside defender, guard the paint. And now you add that it's the end of the game and you have 0.5 seconds left on the shot clock. And you have Gasol sitting in the paint. That's the thing you have to take away first. This was a great play by the Raptors. It was perfectly designed. And even Jaylen Brown, I love him standing up after the game and taking responsibility and holding himself accountable. But he did what he was supposed to do. Look where he's at. He's in the paint helping protect the rim. And then he goes out like he's supposed to when the ball's inbounded to protect the perimeter. So this was basketball 101, Wilds.
Yeah, look, it was a great play. The Raptors franchise was broken down on the side of the road. It was raining. They had a flat tire. And OG and Kyle Lowry were like, look, a donut. Not that you eat, that you put on your car. And they got back on the road and rolling. But bad news, you can't go very fast on the donut. And you're still in a pretty bad spot. I think we all know it. There's no momentum from this. It's an amazing play. It's fine. When we look at they played 6 halves. The Celtics had won 5 of them. That shot, if they didn't go in, they won every half of basketball. They were up by 10 in this game. I'm not worried about it at all. We know how to beat the Bucks. You stop Giannis. Well, how do you beat the Celtics now? They still don't have an answer. They can't make miraculous shots. All right, I guess so. Tatum was terrible the other night. Guess what? The problem is, Kemba was amazing. If that shot doesn't go in, we're like, Kemba scored 29 points and had one of the most amazing passes in playoff history. Well, instead, we're not even talking about it. Okay. So, Nick, you can tell me, no, they've got momentum. I don't think they do. And if anything, I think it backfired. I think it fired Jalen up even more.
Okay, so a couple things. One is, I'm not going to tell you they got momentum, but I do want to compliment you. I don't know if you noticed it. You just right there broke down this series instead of into 3 games into 6 halves, which means you're on the precipice of doing the smart thing, which is break it down by quarters, which you mocked me for a week ago, but you're slowly learning how to break these games down, so I'm proud of you in that regard. So here's why I can't say this series that the Celtics were my pick before the series, before the playoffs to make the conference finals. Yesterday I said on the show, given how Milwaukee had looked, they looked like the favorites to make the NBA Finals. But moments like this can flip series. We saw the Celtics last year win the first 5 games of the playoffs, then lose a game 2 and not win again. Last year in the playoffs, we saw the Milwaukee Bucks. Not only are they up 2-0 on the Raptors, they're 10-1 in the playoffs in a game 3 in double overtime. They lose it. They never win again. Just last week, we saw the Rockets up 2-0, have the ball, up 5, a minute left in game 3. They blow that game, and all of a sudden, their season is coming down to a game potentially winning a 3-point shot at the buzzer. So this series went from, Jenna, totally over to now it's going at least 6 games. It's going at least 6 games, potentially 7. So, listen, the champs are alive thanks to that brilliant play by Lowry and OG and I would argue some porous kind of mental errors by the Celtics on defense.
All right, well, we'll see how Boston responds. Raptors Celtics game 4 Saturday night. Let's talk some New England Patriots now. And to the surprise of very few, the Patriots have officially made the announcement a lot of us expected. Still needed to hear. Cam Newton named the Patriots starting quarterback for week 1. Also named one of the team captains Thursday. So what do you do when you get good news? I say you go right to Instagram. Cam did that. He said, "Dear New England, I will not and do not take this opportunity for granted. I am so grateful for this organization, my teammates, and this city. Thank you. No need to look back now. Let's go." Brandon, I kick off the conversation here. Does Cam being named starter and team captain make you feel more confident in this team, in the Patriots this coming season?
Let's start with this Instagram post. Remember, a couple days ago, we were talking about Cam and humility. He listened to our show. He's showing some humility, but it's all an act. He's not surprised by this. No one should be surprised by this. He knew when he signed on the dotted lines that he would, two things. One, he'll be the starter, and two, he'll be the captain. Right? That's the standard. If you're on a team where your quarterback isn't voted the captain, the leader, then you're probably on a losing team. New England Patriots has set the bar high for the last 20.
Brandon, real quick, I'm sorry. Hold on. Brandon, you ever been on, because you've said this a couple times, and I've been like, should I ask you? I'm just going to ask you. You ever been on it? Because you've played with some good quarterbacks and some others. You ever been on a team where the quarterback's not the captain?
Yeah, no, it's like given to him by default. There's been a few situations where
so even
guys been captain. We all look around like this is not the guy.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, all right.
I can't name them. It's like 18 of them.
Finish up, Brandon.
No, I'm saying the New England Patriots has set the bar high. The last 20 years, they set the standard for winning. This is a winning organization. If they want to win, they know they have to have a leader in their quarterback. So, Nick, I know this is your team. You're super excited about the Patriots, and you think all of this is amazing. But I think they need to slow it down a little bit. This is not the Patriots we've seen for the last 20 years keep making headlines. Every single day out of Patriots camp, you have Jed Fish, you have Bill Belichick, you have the Squirrel, Julian Edelman, who you call Hall of Famer. Always making headlines. Jenna, I don't like it. Kevin, I don't like it.
Go ahead,
I like it a lot, my friend.
And did I call you Nick?
Like
I think I even called you Nick. I think I even called you Nick.
We're both Patriots fans.
Flustered, man.
We're both Patriots fans. It's a fine mistake, and you're about to get a little bit more confused. Nick, do you remember a few weeks ago when you did a LeBron soliloquy on the best show on television?
I've done.
You remember that soliloquy?
I season 14. Yeah, best show on TV.
Yeah, I transcribed it. I don't know if you ever heard the Johnny Cash song "Hurt." It's actually a cover song of a Nine Inch Nails song, and it's actually better. So this is an ode to you, my friend. Ready, Jen? If I had a glue-on beard, this would work better. If I may, for a moment, congratulate America on the return of the single best show on television, 20 consecutive years. And no, it's not 60 Minutes. It's not The Simpsons. And yes, Nick, you are right. It is New England Patriots football. And if you haven't been around, let me remind you how this show started. Some people said it had the best pilot episode in the history of television when the 199th pick goes and wins the Super Bowl on the greatest show on turf. Let's fast forward. Year 3 and 4, 2 more Super Bowls. Season 7, plot twist, go 18-0, but have a guy catch the ball off of his helmet. Seasons 14, 16, 17, and 18, 3 more Super Bowls. But we have one little flaw. Keep it interesting. Let the quarterback call for a receiving play. We'll lose that one to keep it interesting. And now, my friends, go get your popcorn. Because now the best show on television has a new leading man. His name is Cam Newton. The season premiere is in 9 days at 1 o'clock in Foxborough against Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins. Go get your popcorn. Nick, thank you very much. Kevin Wildes, everybody.
Bravo,
that was awesome.
Bravo, Kevin Wildes.
I must admit, for totally cribbed material, you did a great job with it. And I must admit, you did get me a little fired up to watch the Patriots, which is why I am so. The only silver lining here is because I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, I think Cam's going to be great. I think the weapons weren't as bad as people made them out to be last year, and we know they have a great defense. So how can Cam be great and the Patriots not be amazing? And the answer evidently was half the defensive players just saying, we're not going to play this year. So my dream of a Cam Newton Pro Bowl season coinciding with the Patriots being mediocre is still alive, but barely. What's more likely, Jenna, is for the 20th straight year, the Patriots have the best quarterback in their division with respect to Brandon's guy, Josh Allen, and that the Patriots are once again a threat at the end of the season. It's maddening, Jenna. It's totally
disrespecting
All right, we got a minute left in the show. Play a quick take your pick, guys. Rockets, Lakers, game 1 tonight at 9 o'clock. Brandon, you first. Who you got?
Yeah, so Nick gave me 5 points, so I'm going with the Rockets. Right, Nick? You gave me 5 points, right?
Oh, wow. So you're going with the Rockets. How about that? Yeah.
Okay, Wild.
I'm going D'Antoni empties the barrel, sets an NBA record, 63s. They've been on the cusp of it. They set the record last series, 63s. Rockets win.
The Rockets, good luck to them. They're not going to win. You guys are both wrong. The Lakers are going to win. When we talk Monday, the Lakers are going to be up 2-0. Still think this series goes long. Lakers going to be up 2-0.
Rockets, Lakers, game 1. Bucks, Heat, game 3. It's going to be a great night of basketball. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you Monday, everyone.